As the deadline approached, humanity's fledgling fleet assembled in high Earth orbit. 500 ships, ranging from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, represented the sum total of human military might. At their center floated the flagship, the UESS Defiant, commanded by the newly promoted Admiral Elena Rodriguez. From the Defiant's bridge, Rodriguez addressed the fleet, and by extension, all of humanity. Her words were broadcast to every screen and speaker on Earth and the colonies. Men and women of Earth, of Mars, of Europa, and of every human settlement among the stars, we stand at the precipice of the greatest challenge our species has ever faced. An alien empire that has conquered countless worlds now turns its greedy eyes to our home. They thought us weak. They thought us primitive. They thought we would kneel before them without a fight. She paused, her eyes blazing with determination. They were wrong. We are humanity. We have faced extinction before, from our own wars, from plagues, from the very planet that birthed us. Each time, we have emerged stronger. Each time, we have reached higher. And now, as we face this threat from beyond the stars, we will show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. We fight not just for our lives, but for our right to exist, for our children's future among the stars, for every human dream and aspiration. We fight for Earth. A roar of approval echoed through the comm channels as humanity's fleet moved into defensive positions. On the edge of the solar system, sensors detected the approach of the Zarkonian armada. The battle for Earth was about to begin. Earth's desperate stand, the void between Mars and Jupiter, erupted in a dazzling display of destructive energy as humanity's fleet engaged the Zarkonian invasion force. Lasers crisscrossed the battlefield, while missiles and kinetic impactors turned the space around the combatants into a deadly obstacle course of superheated plasma and debris. Admiral Rodriguez, her face illuminated by the tactical hologram aboard the Defiant, watched with a mixture of pride and horror as human ingenuity clashed with alien might. The mirror shields that had proven so effective in the initial skirmish were holding, but the sheer firepower of the Zarkonian warships was overwhelming. Status report. She barked, her eyes never leaving the swirling chaos of the battle map. Her XO, Commander Jamal Khan, responded with grim efficiency. We've lost 30% of our fleet, Admiral. The Zarkonians have only lost about 10% of theirs. At this rate, we'll be overrun within the hour. Rodriguez gritted her teeth. They needed a game changer, and fast. What about the Artemis Protocol? Khan's eyes widened. It's untested, ma'am. We don't know if. We're out of options, Commander. Signal all ships to fall back to Mars orbit, and get me a direct line to Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka on Phobos base. As the battered human fleet executed a fighting retreat towards the Red Planet, the Zarkonian commanders grew confident in their impending victory. Grand Admiral Tsilorath, watching from his flagship at the rear of the formation, allowed himself a satisfied smile. These humans had proven more resilient than expected, but the outcome was never in doubt. Little did he know that deep within Phobos, Mars' largest moon, humanity had been working on a secret weapon that would turn the tide of the war. Dr. Tanaka's face appeared on the Defiant's main screen, his features etched with worry. Admiral, the Artemis device isn't ready. We haven't had time to run proper simulations, let alone field tests. Doctor, in about 20 minutes, there won't be a human fleet left to defend. It's now or never. Tanaka closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and nodded. Understood. Initiating Artemis Protocol. The surface of Phobos began to crack and splinter as massive engines, hidden beneath the moon's regolith, roared to life. The Zarkonians watched in confusion as the misshapen satellite broke free of Mars' gravitational embrace and accelerated towards their fleet. Evasive maneuvers. Tsilorath bellowed, but it was too late. Just as Phobos reached the heart of the Zarkonian formation, it exploded, not in a conventional blast, but in a carefully controlled fragmentation that sent thousands of chunks of moon rock hurtling in all directions. Each fragment of Phobos had been coated with a layer of metamaterials that absorbed and redirected energy. As the Zarkonian ships fired upon the incoming debris, their energy weapons were reflected back upon them, amplified 100-fold. Crystalline hulls shattered, and mighty warships were reduced to drifting shards. In the span of a few chaotic minutes, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. Nearly half of the Zarkonian fleet had been destroyed or disabled by their own weapons, reflected and magnified by the fragments of Phobos. Admiral Rodriguez wasted no time pressing the advantage. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez. The Artemis Protocol was a success. Push forward and engage the enemy. Today, we take back our solar system. The human fleet surged forward, their weapons finding purchase on the now vulnerable Zarkonian ships. Fighters darted between capital ships, exploiting weaknesses and sowing confusion among the alien ranks. Aboard his flagship, Grand Admiral Xylorath watched in disbelief as his invasion force crumbled. "Impossible," he muttered, his scales shifting to a sickly pale color. How could these primitives? His thoughts were interrupted by a massive impact that sent him sprawling across the command deck. The Defiant had broken through the Zarkonian line and was engaging Xylorath's flagship directly. "This is Admiral Elena Rodriguez of Earth." Her voice boomed across all frequencies. "Your invasion has failed. Withdraw now or face complete annihilation." Xylorath, his pride wounded but his survival instinct intact, gave the order to retreat. The remaining Zarkonian ships disengage, their FTL drives flaring as they fled the solar system. As cheers erupted across the human fleet, Admiral Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The Zarkonians would be back, and Earth needed to be ready. In the days that followed, the United Earth government worked tirelessly to capitalize on their victory. Captured Zarkonian ships were studied, their technologies reverse-engineered and integrated into human designs. The shipyards in Earth and Mars orbit doubled their production, churning out vessels that combined the best of human innovation with salvaged alien tech. Dr. Tanaka and his team on the remains of Phobos were tasked with refining the Artemis technology, working to miniaturize it for use on individual ships. If they succeeded, it would revolutionize space combat and give humanity a crucial edge in the conflicts to come. But even as humanity celebrated its first major victory against an interstellar threat, questions lingered. How vast was the Zarkonian Empire? How would they respond to this setback? And were there other alien civilizations out there, watching and waiting to see the outcome of this cosmic clash? Admiral Rodriguez, standing at the viewport of the Defiant as it patrolled the outer reaches of the solar system, gazed at the star-studded blackness of space. She knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had announced its presence on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible, and there was no going back. The Zarkonians would return, and when they did, Earth would be ready. For the first time in its history, humanity was truly united, forged in the crucible of an alien invasion into something stronger and more resilient than ever before. As she watched her fleet move in perfect formation against the backdrop of alien stars, Admiral Rodriguez allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever enemies might emerge from the depths of space, humanity would face them head-on. The battle for Earth had been won. Now, the war for the stars was about to begin. The turning point. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, humanity's newfound unity was being put to the test. The United Earth government had expanded its influence, incorporating the colonies on Mars, Europa, and beyond into a cohesive solar federation. Every resource, every mind, every ounce of human ingenuity was focused on a single goal: preparing for the Zarkonian counterattack. In shipyards orbiting Earth, Mars, and the moons of Jupiter, a new fleet was taking shape. These vessels were unlike anything humanity had built before, incorporating reverse-engineered Zarkonian technology with innovative human designs. The flagship of this new armada was the UESS Prometheus, a behemoth that dwarfed even the mighty Defiant. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, surveying the bustle of activity around her. Crew members rushed to and fro, running last-minute checks on systems that melded the familiar with the alien. At the heart of the ship was its most crucial component, a scaled-down version of the Artemis device, the game-changing technology that had turned the tide in humanity's favor. "Admiral," a voice called out. Rodriguez turned to see Dr. Tanaka approaching, his face a mix of excitement and apprehension. "We've just received word from our long-range probes. The Zarkonians are coming, and their fleet. It's massive." Rodriguez nodded grimly. They had expected this, but the reality of it still sent a chill down her spine. "How long do we have?" 3 days, maybe 4. They're moving cautiously, probably expecting another trap. "Then we'll give them one," Rodriguez said, her voice hard with determination. "Signal all ships. Operation Leonidas is a go." As the human fleet moved into position, taking up defensive stations around key points in the solar system, the Zarkonian armada approached like a looming storm. Their numbers were staggering. Thousands of ships, ranging from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts that rivaled small moons in size. At the head of this terrifying force was the Zarkonian Emperor himself, Zixthar the Unyielding. His flagship, the Crystal Throne, was a city-sized vessel of breathtaking beauty and unimaginable destructive power. Zixthar had taken personal command of this campaign, determined to crush the upstart humans and re-establish Zarkonian dominance. The two fleets met in the space between Jupiter and Saturn, the gas. The two fleets met in the space between Jupiter and Saturn, the gas giants serving as a dramatic backdrop to the impending clash. For a moment, there was an eerie silence as the opposing forces sized each other up. Then, with a flash of energy that outshone the distant sun, the battle began. The Zarkonian fleet opened fire first, a dazzling array of energy weapons lancing out towards the human defenders. But humanity was ready. The upgraded mirror shields on the Earth ships flared to life, reflecting the incoming barrage back at the attackers. Dozens of Zarkonian vessels were caught off guard, their crystalline hulls shattering under the intensity of their own weapons. Admiral Rodriguez, standing tall on the bridge of the Prometheus, barked out orders in rapid succession. "All ships, engage as planned. Carrier groups, launch fighters. Dreadnoughts, target their capital ships. And someone get me a direct line to that oversized crystal cathedral they call a flagship." The space between the fleets became a maelstrom of light and destruction. Human fighters darted between the lumbering Zarkonian capital ships, their agility and unconventional tactics confounding the alien gunners. Meanwhile, the larger Earth vessels hung back, using their long-range kinetic weapons to punch holes in the enemy formation. But the Zarkonians weren't going down without a fight. Their superior numbers began to tell, slowly pushing the human fleet back. Ship after ship winked out of existence, reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Aboard the Crystal Throne, Emperor Zixthar watched the battle with growing satisfaction. "See how they crumble before our might," he gloated to his advisors. "These humans are brave, I'll grant them that. But bravery alone cannot stand against the full power of the Zarkonian Empire." Just then, a communication request flashed on the main view screen. Curious, Zixthar accepted the call. The face of Admiral Rodriguez appeared before him, her expression a mask of grim determination. "Emperor Zixthar," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. "I am Admiral Elena Rodriguez of Earth. In the name of humanity and all free species of the galaxy, I demand your immediate surrender." For a moment, Zixthar was too stunned to respond. Then he burst out laughing, a sound like breaking glass. "Surrender? To you? My dear Admiral, I think the stress of battle has addled your mind. Look around you. Your fleet is in tatters. Your homeworld lies defenseless before us. What possible reason could I have to surrender?" Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. "Because, Your Highness, You're about to witness why it's unwise to underestimate humanity." With that, she cut the communication. Zixthar was about to order his gunners to target the Prometheus when alarms began blaring across the crystal throne. "My Emperor," one of his officers cried out, "we're detecting a massive energy buildup in the human fleet." Zixthar whirled around just in time to see the Prometheus and several other human ships begin to glow with an otherworldly light. The Artemis devices aboard each vessel activated simultaneously, creating a cascading effect that rippled through space. In an instant, the battlefield was transformed. The energy weapons of the Zarkonian fleet were turned against them, magnified 100-fold. Capital ships that had stood firm against conventional attacks now crumbled under the onslaught of their own power. But the effect didn't stop there. The Artemis field continued to expand, enveloping more and more of the Zarkonian armada. Ships found their systems going haywire, their crystal-based technology overloading and shattering. In the span of a few chaotic minutes, the tide of battle had shifted dramatically. The once mighty Zarkonian fleet was in disarray, entire battle groups reduced to drifting debris. Admiral Rodriguez wasted no time pressing the advantage. "All ships, push forward. Concentrate fire on their flagship. Let's end this here and now." The human fleet surged forward, their weapons finding purchase on the now vulnerable Zarkonian ships. Fighters darted between capital ships, exploiting weaknesses and sowing confusion among the alien ranks. Aboard the Crystal Throne, Emperor Zixthar watched in disbelief as his invasion force crumbled around him. Warnings blared from every console as the ship's systems began to fail under the strain of the Artemis field. "Impossible," he muttered, his scales shifting to a sickly pale color. How could these primitives? His thoughts were interrupted by a massive impact that sent him sprawling across the command deck. The Prometheus had broken through the Zarkonian line and was engaging the Crystal Throne directly. "This is Admiral Elena Rodriguez of Earth." Her voice boomed across all frequencies. "Your invasion has failed, Emperor. Surrender now, or face complete annihilation." Zixthar, his pride wounded but his survival instinct intact, knew he had no choice. With a heavy heart, he gave the order to stand down. As the remains of the Zarkonian fleet powered down their weapons, a cheer went up across the human ships. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had prevailed against the greatest threat it had ever faced. In the days that followed, the solar system was a flurry of activity. Captured Zarkonian ships were studied, their technologies further integrated into human designs. The shipyards redoubled their efforts, preparing for the next phase of the conflict. For Admiral Rodriguez and the leaders of Earth, the victory brought both relief and new challenges. They had defeated the invasion force, yes, but the Zarkonian Empire still controlled vast swathes of the galaxy. The war was far from over. As she stood in the newly established war room on Mars, looking at a holographic map of known space, Rodriguez felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. They had won a crucial battle, but the campaign to secure humanity's place among the stars was just beginning. "What's our next move, Admiral?" asked President Chung, the leader of the United Earth government. Rodriguez studied the map for a moment before responding. "We've bloodied their nose, Madam President. Now it's time to take the fight to them. We'll liberate the worlds they've enslaved, dismantle their empire piece by piece if we have to." She turned to face the assembled leaders, her eyes blazing with determination. "The Zarkonians thought they could subjugate us, just as they'd done to countless other species. Instead, we'll be the ones to break their chains. Humanity will not just survive this war, we'll use it to bring freedom to the galaxy." As the room erupted in discussion, plans being formulated for the next phase of the war, Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of reflection. The path ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges they couldn't even imagine yet. But for the first time since the conflict began, she felt a surge of hope. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had taken the best the Zarkonians could throw at them and turned it back against their enemies. Whatever the galaxy had in store for them next, Earth and her children would be ready. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter that day, as if in recognition of humanity's triumph. The galaxy was about to learn a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the tenacity, ingenuity, and sheer determination of the human spirit. Humanity's audacious push. In the months following the decisive Battle of Saturn, humanity's victory over the Zarkonian invasion force sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. News of the Empire's defeat spread rapidly, igniting hope among the subjugated species and sowing seeds of doubt within the Zarkonian hierarchy itself. Admiral Elena Rodriguez, now hailed as the savior of Earth, found herself thrust into a new role. No longer just a military commander, she had become the face of humanity's resistance against tyranny. As she stood before the United Earth Council, laying out plans for the next phase of the war, she could feel the weight of billions of lives, human and alien alike, resting on her shoulders. We cannot be content with merely defending our solar system, she argued, her voice firm with conviction. Every moment we hesitate, countless beings suffer under Zarkonian oppression. It's time we take the fight to them. President Chung nodded thoughtfully. I agree, Admiral. But how do you propose we do that? Even with our technological advancements, we're still vastly outnumbered. Rodriguez smiled, a glint of determination in her eyes. By doing what humanity does best, Madam President, we adapt, we innovate, and we inspire others to join our cause. Operation Prometheus, as it came to be known, was humanity's boldest move yet. A fleet of Earth's most advanced ships, led by the flagship UESS Prometheus, would push deep into Zarkonian territory. Their mission: to liberate enslaved worlds, gather allies, and dismantle the Empire's power structure piece by piece. As the fleet prepared to depart, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka approached Admiral Rodriguez with a gleam in his eye. Admiral, we've made a breakthrough with the Artemis technology, he said, practically bouncing with excitement. We've managed to miniaturize it further. Every ship in the fleet can now generate its own Artemis field. Rodriguez's eyes widened. This changed everything. Dr. Tanaka, you and your team may have just won us the war. The Prometheus and its escort ships slipped into faster-than-light travel, leaving the safety of Earth behind. Their first target, Lyra 9, a mineral-rich world that had been one of the Zarkonian Empire's earliest conquests. As they dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Lyra system, the scene that greeted them was one of oppression and industrial exploitation. Massive mining operations scared the planet's surface, while a sizable Zarkonian fleet hung in orbit, ever vigilant against the possibility of rebellion. All ships, battle stations, Rodriguez commanded. Let's show these tyrants what happens when you mess with the free peoples of the galaxy. The battle that followed was swift and decisive. The Zarkonians, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the human fleet, found their energy weapons turned against them by the Artemis fields. Within hours, the orbital defenses had been neutralized, and human dropships were descending to the planet's surface. What the Earth forces found on Lyra 9 steeled their resolve even further. The native Lyrans, a gentle arboreal species, had been reduced to little more than slaves in their own world. As human troops liberated labor camps and dismantled oppressive infrastructure, the Lyrans emerged from hiding, their bioluminescent fur pulsing with hope for the first time in generations. Addressing a gathering of Lyran elders, Rodriguez made a solemn vow. We came here not as conquerors, but as liberators. Earth stands with Lyra 9, and together we will ensure that the Zarkonians never threaten your freedom again. The liberation of Lyra 9 was just the beginning. Over the next several months, the human fleet blazed a trail of freedom across Zarkonian space. Word of their victories spread faster than the Empire could contain it, and with each liberated world, more allies joined their cause. The Volcran, silicon-based entities who had once been the Zarkonians' fiercest rivals, emerged from hiding to offer their advanced stealth technology. The Jur, a species of natural telepaths, provided invaluable intelligence on Zarkonian fleet movements. Even some disillusioned Zarkonians, seeing the writing on the wall, defected to the human-led alliance. Back on Earth, the United Earth government worked tirelessly to integrate these new allies into their strategy. Diplomatic corps were established to manage relations with liberated worlds, while research teams collaborated with alien scientists to push the boundaries of technology even further. But the war was far from over. As news of the human advance reached the Zarkonian homeworld, the Empire's leadership grew desperate. Emperor Zixthar, his authority crumbling, turned to increasingly brutal tactics to maintain control. Reports began to filter in of entire worlds being stripped bare of resources, their populations relocated to fortified core worlds. The Zarkonians were consolidating their power, preparing for a final, apocalyptic showdown. Admiral Rodriguez, reviewing the latest intelligence aboard the Prometheus, felt a chill run down her spine. The Zarkonians were backed into a corner, and like any wounded animal, they were at their most dangerous. "We've come too far to back down now," she murmured, more to herself than to her assembled officers. "But we need to end this war quickly, before more innocent lives are lost." As if in answer to her concerns, a priority communication came through from Earth. Dr. Tanaka's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Admiral, we've done it," he said without preamble. "Project Avalon is ready." Rodriguez's breath caught in her throat. Project Avalon had been a closely guarded secret, a weapon of last resort that they had hoped never to use. But faced with the prospect of a prolonged, bloody conflict, they might not have a choice. "Understood, Doctor," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. "Begin final preparations. We're coming home." As the Prometheus set a course back to Earth, Rodriguez gazed out at the star-studded void of space. They had achieved so much, liberated so many. But the true test still lay ahead. The final battle for the fate of the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity would either emerge as its saviors, or go down fighting for the freedom of all sentient beings. The final showdown. The UESS Prometheus dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the outskirts of the Sol system, leading a fleet that would have been unimaginable just a year ago. Ships of every shape and size, representing a dozen different species, fell into formation behind the massive human flagship. This was no longer just Earth's war. It was a crusade for galactic freedom. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her face illuminated by the holographic display of their ultimate target. Zarkon Prime, the homeworld of the once mighty Empire. Intelligence gathered from their new allies painted a grim picture. Emperor Zixthar had withdrawn the bulk of his remaining forces to fortify his throne world, turning it into a nigh impregnable fortress. "Status report," Rodriguez called out, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Commander Jamal Khan, her trusted XO, responded promptly. "All ships report ready, Admiral. The Avalon device is primed and awaiting your command." Rodriguez nodded, a weight settling in her chest. The Avalon device, humanity's ultimate weapon, capable of generating an Artemis field on a planetary scale. It could potentially end the war in one stroke. But at what cost? "Open a channel to the fleet," she ordered. As the communications officer complied, Rodriguez took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would be heard by billions across the galaxy. "Soldiers, sailors, and fighters for freedom," she began, her voice carrying across the vastness of space. "We stand on the precipice of history. Before us lies the heart of an empire that has subjugated countless worlds, crushed innumerable species under its heel. But no longer." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today, we fight not just for Earth, not just for our allies, but for every sentient being's right to determine their own destiny. The Zarkonians believed they could break us, that we would kneel before their might. Instead, we have united the galaxy against them. The battle ahead will be the hardest we've ever faced. But remember this: every free world, Every liberated species stands with us. We carry their hopes, their dreams, their futures. So fight with everything you have, not just for victory, but for a galaxy where no one need fear oppression ever again. As cheers erupted across the comm channels, Rodriguez gave the order to advance. The Allied fleet surged forward, crossing the vast distances of the Zarkonian home system in a matter of hours. They were met with a sight that made even the bravest hearts quail. A defensive line of Zarkonian ships stretched as far as the eye could see, backed by massive orbital platforms bristling with weapons. And behind it all loomed Zarkon Prime itself, a world that seemed to glow with malevolent energy. The battle erupted with a fury that outshone the system's sun. Energy beams crisscrossed the void, while swarms of fighters engaged in deadly dances between capital ships. The Allies' Artemis fields proved their worth once again, turning the Zarkonians' most powerful weapons against them. But the defenders fought with the desperation of those who knew defeat meant the end of everything they held dear. For every Zarkonian ship destroyed, an Allied vessel fell. The space around Zarkon Prime became a... But the defenders fought with the desperation of those who knew defeat meant the end of everything they held dear. For every Zarkonian ship destroyed, an Allied vessel fell. The space around Zarkon Prime became a graveyard of shattered hulls and broken dreams. Aboard the Prometheus, Admiral Rodriguez watched the battle unfold with growing concern. They were making progress, yes, but at a terrible cost. If this continued, there might not be much of a fleet left to secure the peace they fought so hard for. "Admiral," Commander Khan called out, his voice tight with urgency. "Our forward elements report that the Zarkonians are deploying some kind of new weapon. They're calling it a null field. It's shutting down our Artemis devices." Rodriguez's blood ran cold. Without the Artemis technology, they'd lose their primary advantage. The tide of battle could turn against them in moments. She made her decision. Bring the Avalon device online. Prepare for planetary deployment. A hush fell over the bridge. Everyone knew what this meant. The Avalon device could end the war, yes, but it could also devastate an entire world. The moral weight of such an action was almost too much to bear. Just then, a priority communication cut through the tension. "Admiral Rodriguez," a familiar voice rang out. "This is Dr. Tanaka. Don't activate Avalon yet. I have a better idea." As Tanaka quickly outlined his plan, a spark of hope ignited in Rodriguez's chest. It was risky, audacious even, but it just might work. "All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez," she broadcast to the fleet. "Fall back to secondary positions. Prepare for Operation Endgame." The Allied fleet began a tactical retreat, drawing the Zarkonian forces away from their homeworld. As they did, a small, stealth ship, a joint human-Volcran design, slipped past the enemy lines, heading straight for the planet's surface. On board were Dr. Tanaka, a team of Earth's best scientists, and representatives from each of their alien allies. Their mission: to infiltrate the central control hub of the Zarkonian Empire and turn its own technology against it. As the main battle raged in space, Tanaka's team fought their own desperate struggle on the ground. They battled through layers of security, both technological and biological, racing against time as the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Finally, they'd reached the heart of the Zarkonian command structure, a vast crystalline chamber pulsing with energy. At its center stood Emperor Zixthar himself, his once resplendent form now twisted by the corrupting influence of absolute power. "So," the Emperor hissed, his voice like breaking glass, "the architects of my empire's downfall show themselves at last." Tanaka stepped forward, his voice steady despite his fear. "It's over, Emperor. Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." Zixthar laughed, a sound that sent chills down the spines of all present. "Surrender? To you. I am the master of 1,000 worlds, the conqueror of galaxies. I will not be defeated by a group of upstart primitives." With a gesture, he activated the chamber's defenses. Energy beams lashed out, forcing the infiltration team to take cover. But they had anticipated this. Each member of the team had been chosen not just for their scientific expertise, but for their unique abilities. As Zixthar focused on Tanaka and the humans, a Jur telepath slipped into his mind, distracting him with psychic illusions. A Volcran operative used their phase-shifting abilities to move through solid matter, reaching the main control console. And Tanaka, drawing on everything he had learned about Zarkonian technology, began the process of reprogramming the Empire's entire network. In space, the battle had reached a fever pitch. The Prometheus shuddered under repeated impacts, its Artemis field flickering as it struggled against the null field technology. Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. An officer reported, her voice strained. Artemis generators at 30% capacity and falling. Rodriguez gripped her command chair, silently willing Tanaka's team to hurry. They were running out of time. Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed out from Zarkon Prime. For a heart-stopping moment, every ship in the system went dark. Then, just as quickly, they came back online. "Admiral," Khan exclaimed, his eyes wide with disbelief. "The Zarkonian ships, they're powering down." On the planet's surface, Tanaka's team watched in awe as the vast crystalline structures of the Zarkonian capital began to dim. Emperor Zixthar, his connection to the Empire's technology suddenly severed, collapsed to the ground. What have you done?" he gasped, looking more frail and vulnerable than any human had ever seen as Zarkonian. Tanaka approached him, a mixture of pity and determination on his face. "We've given you a choice, Emperor, the same choice you denied so many others. Surrender and help us build a better galaxy for all species, or watch as everything you built crumbles around you." In orbit, Rodriguez received Tanaka's signal. The infiltration had been a success. The Zarkonian Empire's vast technological network, the source of its power and oppression, was now under Allied control. "All ships, cease fire," Rodriguez ordered, her voice thick with emotion. "Send out the message on all frequencies, in every language we know. The war is over. The Zarkonian Empire has fallen." As the news spread, scenes of jubilation erupted across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and size celebrated their newfound freedom. The long night of Zarkonian oppression had finally come to an end. In the days and weeks that followed, the Allies began the monumental task of dismantling the Empire and helping its former subjects build new, free societies. It wasn't easy. Centuries of oppression had left deep scars. But for the first time in living memory, there was hope. Admiral Rodriguez, standing on the observation deck of the Prometheus, watched as ships from dozens of species worked together to clear the debris of battle from Zarkon Prime's orbit. Each piece of wreckage removed felt like wiping away another trace of the old oppressive order. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Dr. Tanaka said, joining her at the window. Rodriguez nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "A year ago, I never would have imagined this. Humans working alongside aliens to rebuild a former enemy's homeworld. That's what makes humanity special, I think," Tanaka mused. "Our ability to adapt, to see possibilities where others see only obstacles. We came to the stars as defenders, became liberators, and now we have the chance to be builders of a better future." As they stood there, watching the birth of a new era, both felt a profound sense of the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. The galaxy was entering uncharted territory, and humanity would play a crucial role in shaping its future. The war was over, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. With allies at their side and the stars within reach, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The universe, vast and mysterious, beckoned, promising new wonders, new challenges, and new frontiers to explore. And humanity, tested by fire and forged in the crucible of interstellar war, was ready to answer that call.